right, everybody? We are back again for another episode of Life After Ball, season 2.1. Don't know what episode it is. Just continue to record, continue to bring on cool guests from all across the world. I'm again with Tara and another special guest, a longtime friend, Nicole. Nicole, welcome to Life After Ball, the other side of the coach's compass. And I feel like, as we talked about off air, is this could be an ongoing topic that we talk about over and over. But I think the first question I kind of want to ask you guys is, how important is it when it comes to getting to that pro level or even in the college level of choosing your partner that's going to be beside you along the ride for this whole crazy journey of being a pro athlete and then afterwards when you retire?
Yeah. What do you think? You want me to run with it?
Well, first of all, I just say,
Thanks for having me.
thanks for having Nicole on. Yeah, like
Yeah,
Nicole
thanks
is
for
like,
having me,
she
for
and I
sure.
go way back. Just a little history for the viewers. Like she and I have known each other since early 2000s, I guess. Both husbands
Yeah.
played pro sport. I got involved because I was training a bunch of the players and helping them off behind the scenes. Met my husband that way. We're no longer together. Nicole and I were fast friends in this journey of kind of walking along together as, wives. We became sort of each other's shoulder to cry on, our best support.
Literally.
We've been like lifelong friends. I call her my sister from another mother. But we walked this journey and had so many insights of like being married into it, let alone like, she
Yeah.
was a very accomplished athlete. I was am a sport physiologist working in the trenches. So we had just some interesting perspectives on the journey of being a significant other through the pro sport journey and the retirement process. And so I'm just super blessed that she was able to jump on.
No, thanks
And
for having me.
I'll let her tell her story, and I'll zip it for a bit. But we could talk about this topic for, like I said, 48 hours straight, and probably not even kind of get a quarter of it in. No, seriously, you don't know. You're
It's
kind of
so
getting
true.
the sense.
So please cut me off if I become long-winded and very verbose, because I've been told that I am both. So, but I think it's only when you're passionate about something, it's like this has been my life, and it was a life I definitely didn't choose when I chose it. Let's start there. My husband and I went to school together, and it's interesting because football, even though his team, and he'll tell you, they didn't win, the money that they get because of the collective bargaining agreements with whatever you know conference they're in, because of money it looks as though they're better, even though my team that I played for, we were top 10 in the nation, went to the final four my sophomore year. Like, we were dogs, but yet we don't really get the same recognition as they do because they brought in more money. So that's a whole nother episode, and we'll talk about that later. But what's great though, I feel like, so what's interesting, because he'll say all the time, because they didn't win, he didn't feel confident. He's like, I can't come to this woman who's like doing what she's doing, and then I'm over here on some team that can't win a game. He really took the wins and losses as his confidence, which I think is also yet another conversation that we can have, where athletes, because he's played since he was, a child, they really carry the wins and losses as who they are, And like for me, I was like, I didn't see it that way, because women, I don't think, see it that way, because we also don't have that idea or dream of, or we didn't in our generation, we don't have that dream of like going pro, which is what these young guys do. They have this. So it's like, if all of a sudden that seems like it's going to stop, it's like, well, then how good am I really, to the world? Because everybody's loving me now. Everybody loved me when I was in middle school. Everybody loved me when I was in high school. And now I get to college, which is literally the key. And now we can't do it. But what's crazy is that if you look back at his stats individually, which is crazy because football is the ultimate team sport, individually, he still holds like 20 records. But that did not matter. It was more about the team wins when it came to him moving into the pros. So it was like, it's all backwards thinking, honestly. So you have to be like, when you're in this space, you have to really not get caught in the sauce, right? Like they say that, just like you have to stop getting caught up in the sauce. And now with, NIL and this transfer portal, it is making it I mean, honestly, I feel like I'm going to go on a rampage because it's, it's really bad because, you know, my husband had a plan B because they didn't win in college. I'll say that again. He always had a plan B. It was, we're going to be doing this, we're going to be doing that. Like, I don't see myself playing forever because I didn't make it. And making it for an American football player is getting to the NFL. And that wasn't the first place that called him. He had to go to Canada. And the thing is, it's like to say it's like, oh, he had to go to Canada. It's not a bad thing, you know? That's also another negative kind of connotation, which now we see is like, everybody wants to go to Canada again. I mean, how many episodes are we doing? Exactly. It's like, but for me, when it came to sports, because I also had met guys who were like, I'm going to the league. You don't even play here on this team that's not winning. How are you expecting? But that was their expectation. So for me and my husband, not only were we friends, which we were, but he had a plan B because if I'm going to go on this journey with you, I need you to know that this might not work out. And you have to maybe be okay with that. Even though initially you are okay, there's going to be a moment where you're not going to be okay with it, but at least you already had that in your mind that not everybody, I mean, what's the average? I don't have the stats and I feel like we need to pull stats, but like back in those days, it was, and it probably is still the same. 3 to 5 years is the length of a career professionally.
I think it's gone 2 to 4 now.
That's even worse. You know, and to hold and put everything you have on that only solely, it's tough because also too though, I mean, there's another side of it. You got families, right, that are putting the weight of you making it, and it's like, but even if you do make it, it's like what I was talking with Tara, I always thought that if, let's say you make it, I mean, by the God's grace, you make it, okay, there should be an automatic like take some money out of these kids and their children. Let's be real, they're kids. Take some money out of their check automatically without question to invest, you know, which is what I also think should be in this whole NIL thing in the college level. It's like you can't be giving someone $1 million who has no business having $1 million. It should be in a trust and they can access it, you know, when they are old enough, you know, and they're graduated and probably don't make $1 million. You know what I mean? Like it's not sustainable because the chances of these guys getting right, like the money that you make as a pro, it's
It
hard to
also depends
sustain.
on what level you come in at, because I mean, I know for myself, I came in as a tryout guy, so like I didn't get a
Yeah,
signing bonus, right? So then
exactly,
like
exactly.
I didn't get a check, like a real check, until I actually played a game, and I didn't even make it to that point. Like I was only playing in preseason, so I was getting
Yeah,
free housing, and you get the $1,000 you get a week, having to go to OTAs, preseason, and all that. But then like you get cut right before the season, so there's no money, right? Nothing
no,
was made, and
yep,
me be, and I can say it, 22, 23.
yeah,
I'm only thinking like I'm gonna make it. So that money, that the $1,000 I was getting a week, that was blown. That's gone. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like I come out of the league and I get cut, and I'm mowing lawns. I'm going to take over my dad's landscaping business, and like
yeah.
it is that feeling of like, man, I'm not
Dang,
successful. I'm nobody. You
right.
know, like that
And how
reality of
can, and you think like, why is it that we allow it, you know, for you guys to feel so great because of one thing and then in like a heartbeat be lower than the lowest of the low? I don't think that's okay. I mean, you know what I mean? And that is like, and that's where I feel like what has happened, and unfortunately, and I don't want to go super dark, but when Tara had contacted me about doing this, we recently had lost a friend who took his life, and he was a pro athlete, and it just became a struggle. And he was the second that had happened probably within too short of a time frame. And it hits us hard, you know, like it's because, you know, and it's so interesting. Like I had this one wife, Tara, I don't know, I feel like I'm not going to say any names on here, but
Yeah, I'm gonna be careful.
a coach's wife said to me one time, and this is early on. I had just had our first son, and I went back and forth to Maryland from Calgary Because I was a first time mom. I mean, my husband's on the road. I don't have family. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going home to see my people. I came back and she says to me, and I guess my husband had a bad game while I was away. Granted, it wasn't a home game, it was an away game. So I didn't, you know what I mean? Like, what am I going to do anyway? I'm out. I'm in the stands with a child. What did I have to do with the thing? But that's another whole um, but she said to me, her first thing she said to me when I saw her, she's like, "Oh, that's why he's playing the way he is." I'm like, "Okay," because I'm taking his son away from him. And I'm like, "Girl, he barely changes a diaper." But okay. So in one breath, she says that to me, but then in another breath, she says, what has stuck with me forever is you can never let the highs get too high or the lows get too low. And I feel like that is kind of the gist of this business, period. If you ride the wave as high and as low as they can go, I think that is what takes people down, unfortunately.
I shared a stat. Just interject for a second. One of the times I was chatting with Coop, just from a guy that was the head of the NHL Players Association, but it's a stat that's universal that 83% of marriages end in divorce a year after retirement, and because of all
83?
the 83%, yeah. So and yeah, there's so much to that to unpack, but there's the back to your earlier question about how do you choose your mate.
Yeah.
Obviously, we thought Nicole and I thought, having sort of lived the business in different ways, mine more professionally, and
Yeah.
kind of like trying to right my own wrongs as an athlete and my own sort of crazy journey that I had that kind of led me to wanting to help others. And
Mhm.
Nicole making it in terms of sport, and me kind of like blowing up. Like, we shared sort of a journey that took us to the same place, and we ended up kind of coming back together and playing sports as old ladies again. But our
Yeah.
journey was, we thought we understood it. We understood the toll it was going to take on us, to our husbands. And so it was that, that shared love on my behalf, sort of like shared love of sport, actualizing potential, that real incredible courage it takes to put yourself out there to try to actualize that potential and to be the best you can be. That takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of vulnerability, a lot of things, as you well know, just to put yourself out there and say, I'm going to go for it. And not a lot of people have that drive to do so, the courage to do so, the support to do so, the resources to do so. There's a lot of things that come into play, as everyone knows, to try to make it, let alone the jeering and the rejection from not only people that are supposed to be close to you, but often turn on you when you're not winning. The people you think are your friends are not your friends. You hope they are, and suddenly they're vanishing. There's so much which leads to that potentially really dark path of retirement, of which Nicole just shared, like people taking their lives, which is why we've talked about this before, like a call to action early to sort of help people through that journey. We thought we got it. We had more background, education, experience than many of the other wives that we came to know through this journey, but we still struggled. And that's how we became such friends, as we were just really like, oh my gosh, sitting in the room after games with all the different wives and girlfriends, we're like, we felt like completely outsiders. We would talk and try to figure out like what this meant to us. We were there really for the sport. I was there actually watching people's hips move, and this, oh Matt, that guy couldn't push off, and this guy's turning this way. Like, I was actually working through the games and figuring that out. Like, oh woo, what, we got to really do something about that. Something's going on there. I was sitting there like a nerd in the stands, like, what's going on? And oh dear, and oh boy, and thinking about it from that perspective. And I was completely the only one in the stands doing that. So imagine me.
I
I was
appreciate
such an
that, though.
outsider.
I
I was such a
appreciate that.
nerd. I was
And
the
that's the
nerd, and
thing.
everybody else was all dressed up and looking nice. I'm like a ball cap, like chomping,
Yeah.
staring. Like, I was so nerdy about the whole thing, trying to figure out, why is
I
he not
loved
running
it.
faster? Like, and so Nicole she got that. She respected that. She was with me. But boy, oh boy, were we alone in our own little journey. So
Yeah.
it was extremely hard for us. And we're expected to go home and support. I'm going home with a list of wrongs. Like, what happened to your hip? I thought I thought we talked about this too, because I was doing the training, to she's going home and saying, like, get over yourself at times. Like,
Yeah.
this was just a game you lost. There's a lot of dynamics. And so I felt super equipped to handle it and was excited about going on that journey, but it wasn't even what I expected it would be. And I'd walked alongside
Yeah.
of a lot of athletes in my career to help them go on that journey. I'm support staff, and I wasn't able to handle some of the behind the scenes that went on around just navigating the social pressures, all the stuff we've talked about before. So I don't know even what advice I would give, because I thought, falsely, that I had it figured out. I still wouldn't change anything. Met some amazing people, learned so much, wonderful son out of the whole journey. But I know it hasn't been easy. And so I sort of really defer to Nicole, who not only made it, had to fight some real battles to make it, and then have still sort of, going on a journey now with Henry, with his kind of figuring out who his life is after this. So I don't have a
Yeah.
straight answer to how to choose your mate, but it was a sheer love of sport and just a really excitement about kind of going on what that journey could be, and leaving no stones unturned on the performance planning side. Like, as a sports scientist type person, that's like, it's so fun to do that, and really believed in my then husband, in the journey that he could take, and was excited to go on that. And I don't change. Wouldn't take that back. But boy, oh boy, was it a tough road to navigate, with the dynamics, the social dynamics, the pressures of trying to raise a kid and have a family and support someone, and have a future, and have that be a legitimate thing, and legitimize it. Because there's lots of family around there going, why are you bothering with this? This is such superfluous stuff. Like, who cares that you're playing pro sport? Get a real job, get a real life. We're over here having a real life. We've talked about that before. And I'm like, who are you to say this isn't a real life? At the same time, like, now what?
At the
So
same
there's
time,
just,
they're buying tickets to go watch him play. Like, what are we
Yeah,
talking about? It's just
in
like
the stands.
you can't have it both ways, I totally agree with you to back on what you're saying. It's like, at the same time too, I also believed in my husband. I still do to this day. Like, I feel like I wouldn't have taken that journey if I didn't truly believe in who he actually is. And I think that's something that people need to, I feel like that's almost more of a thing that the guys need to do than the women, if that makes sense. Because I feel like, I don't know, I don't want to just say it, but you already know what I'm about to say. It's just, there are women who, and there are men too, whatever. It's all sides. Everybody can be whatever, but you got to look at each person as they are. Are they always agreeable and everything you do is funny? Guess what, guys? Everything you do isn't funny. Like, it's the truth. It's just like, you need the person who's gonna be like, yeah, okay, but no. Like, that's the one you need to be with, because she's going to push you and support you, but she's also going to raise you up to be better, right? Like, you guys need to be trying to fight to become the best versions of yourself, And like, it's crazy because my husband and we definitely went through it. And there's always going to be in a marriage a moment where it's just like, I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do it. I'm done. And how we got through, I still sometimes I'm like, I don't even know how we did. I don't know how we did. But once we got over that space, it's like, it's you and I against the world, no matter what. And that's not to say that there aren't moments where it's just like, oh my God, I can't. But it's like, we already just know, though. It's like, that's it. That's it. I mean, come May, we're going to be 21 years, which is insane. And like, I
yeah.
know, I was like, I do want a prize. I normally don't want a prize, but I want a prize.
21 years is impressive.
We'll work on a prize for you.
Right? But it feels different, But again, I don't think people want to do the work. I think people want the quick rise, which is both guys trying to quick rise into the league and women who want to be with those guys. That's the point. At the end of the day, like my husband said, you can't cheat the game, no matter where or what it is you want to do. That game is tough. It's tough, and to be there is one thing, or to get there, but to stay is that's a whole nother ball game. And I don't think people want to really put in the hard work that it takes to stay, because everybody just likes all the fluff, the social media of it. And social media is, it's the devil. I'm sorry. I'm going to say it out loud. It is. It's because you get to see, like, all you see is the great. Do you understand? Like, if you ask any real true athlete who's done anything in any real way, it is the grind. We don't see a whole lot of grind. That is like 1 or 2% of what you see. It's all fluff, And that's the generations that we're building, you know, unfortunately. So that's what I would say to any young man. Honestly, I would say to him, like, I'm even teaching our boys, like, they're like, oh, does he have, you know, we've got a freshman in college and we've got a sophomore in high school. Do they have girlfriends? No. I'm sure there's girls that like them, but we're not promoting them to have to go to a homecoming dance or to deal with all that nonsense, because guess what? They have other goals. And right now, back in our day, maybe, but like now the generations, it's like, who's going to show up so we can do some signage, dance, whatever, so we can post it? It's all about a post. If you get caught up in all that stuff and you don't really navigate the person that you're trying to be with in a real way to see who they are without, like, put your phone down, you're going to be living a life on social media, and that does not last. So for anybody, and really I would say for these guys, like for you guys to really like take more time, you know, take more time, and it doesn't have to happen now. Like all those things, right? Like you don't have to get married yesterday. You don't have to have a baby tomorrow. You know, like you're okay if you don't. Actually, you're probably smarter than the rest of everybody because everybody else is caught up in all of the sauce, right? So that's the advice I'd give. Just, you know, be real with it
Well, and
and be okay to be different. Be okay to be different.
one of the most difficult things that we navigated as women, kind of with husbands, is all the other women that are around and are trying to get a piece. Like that was the hardest thing as wives to deal with, like constantly. You want to really trust and believe in what's going on with your husband, and you want to be relevant, but you know, there's a lot of attention, there's a lot of fanfare, there's a lot of people that are just hanging around. And I heard a horrible new trend that's going on right now. Maybe it's not a new trend, but in
Uh-oh.
somebody was sharing a terrible thing about you know what some people are doing to get, I guess, to bag an athlete. It's pretty bad. Like, so you know, actual plans that girls have to be able
Mm,
to get an athlete to be with them, and I was just horrified because first of all, we try
horrified.
really hard as women, and we want that for other women to be like really legitimate, successful, confident, empowered people that have their own lives, like have their own careers, that have their own identity. And you have to be really strong in that, because when you go on this journey with somebody that's trying to make it as a pro, you've got to be super solid in who you are. You've got to have your own identity, your own confidence, because it gets tested in every which way possible. And yeah, you're not always, you know, you're sitting in the stands like super overweight because you just had a baby, you're not attractive, like, ugh, right? Like, you know, you're like sitting there stuffing your face with, you haven't washed your hair in 2 weeks, like, you know, like you're not exactly attractive. There's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to really get your, you know, be much more exciting than you might be in a given moment. And so you really have to have strong sense of who you are, your own gig, like your own identity in the process, and know the person that you're with, because you've got to carry them at times. There's times where
Yeah.
they're, you know, your career. I remember taking a job that I didn't really want to take in my field because my husband was playing football. And it's like, you never know what's going to happen with that. Like, you have to plan for the fact that maybe someday he's going to get hurt and not going to make it, or someone's going to be better and clean, and he's going to have to clean out his lockers. I need to pay the bills. I need to keep the lights on. We need to have savings. I need to have, I have to be prepared to tow my load. And I always wasn't able to do that. We had a child with going struggles with some special needs at the time, and I wasn't able to sort of fully work, and he struggled a lot for a period of time. He's doing great now, but we went through some difficult periods, and we've got someone playing and traveling, and somebody's got to hold down that fort, and they have to be strong enough to do that, and they need support to do that. And and even, you know, us trusting who our real friends were, like however many times did, you know, people just want to hang out with us because they were trying to get to, and this was a CFL, like it
Yeah,
wasn't even the
right.
NFL. Like this was like the CFL, like it
Yeah.
wasn't even like, do you know how low those paychecks are? Like those aren't,
Yeah.
we're not,
I know, but I
we're not
know.
There's
making a
only,
lot of
I mean, I
money.
hate to say it,
You were,
there's only
you were
one
the,
guy
you were the,
really making any
yeah,
money
your
on any of those
husband,
teams.
was the one. All us other people, you got your, I mean, really, as a quarterback, you had the
All
biggest
those
salary,
other
but like,
people.
but as us, like, I mean, we're
Yeah.
barely making it. Like we, you know, it's not exactly a glorious salaried sort of thing, but you know, there's still people trying to get close
But the
to our
prestige,
family. Yes, there was still some
it
prestige in
still
that. And I'm
holds a
like,
prestige, which is so crazy. I mean, which again, that's another conversation that we need to bring some CFL, PA, and all those people into a conversation where it's just like it needs to be sustainable. But anyway,
But we
you know
were
what I mean?
at this
Because you
time,
are.
you need
You're
friends. Like Nicole and I needed friends. We needed real people to talk to deal with our issues, to help us
yeah.
get through what we were going through, that understood what it was
Yep.
like inside the bubble. We called it the bubble. We
Yeah.
needed people to understand that, and we needed to
It
trust
is.
people. And then unfortunately, you have a lot of friends that even with us that came along that didn't really want to be our friends. They just were sort of trying to get close to the bubble. And so it's like we're struggling with who our real friends are. That's why the friendships that you make in this that last, like that's why, earlier, like when we got on camera together, we're like, oh my gosh, it's you. Like we were so, like I so relied on that friendship with her because she
Yeah.
was my real friend, I still consider, like, no
Yeah.
matter how much distance and time passes, like this woman is like my, like, just adore her. And
Person.
so it's because she was the one person, one of the one person, sorry, marbles in my mouth. I haven't had enough coffee this morning, who was there through the I was training someone at 6 a.m. this morning, and I'm like running on
Yeah. Your
fumes here,
marbles
and it's only like 9
lost.
o'clock.
Exactly.
I got a long day. But those friendships and those relationships that do make it and stand the test of time and retirement, and you not being relevant the same way anymore, are the ones that are real. And those are hard to come by on the journey, let alone real spouses, let alone real family. It tests
Yeah.
every element of that. I know you're living that in Coop yourself. Coop just recently retired, so from sport, and so
Okay.
is on his own journey. Yeah. So
I know. I
Yeah.
want to hear a little bit. Can I hear a little bit about your journey?
Yeah. So, I mean, my journey in the NFL was very, very short. So I started off at Wake Forest, transferred to Charlotte, had a very, very short time at in the NFL with the Jacksonville Jaguars, was a tryout player, one of like 60 players that got signed, 15 to the
Okay.
Jacksonville Jaguars, was there until the third preseason game. Right at the third preseason game when they make the first round of cuts, I was cut. Within that time period, was still trying to figure out what I was going to do with life
Yeah.
and what I was going to continue to play. In that time period, lost my dad. From there, I got a call from actually my agent. I had not a great agent at the time. Won't say bad,
Yeah.
not a great. Actually, he had a contract for me to go to Calgary that has been sitting in his junk folder for about 3 months. So I was at a friend's basketball game, get a call from Calgary. They're like, hey, like, why haven't you signed your contract? I'm like, yeah, I don't even know what you guys are talking about.
Right.
So then they emailed it to me. I signed it, fired my agent, found a new agent, went to the rookie mini camp with Calgary, had no clue what CFL was all about with all the
Yeah.
running starts and everything like that. Right at the camp, got cut. Then spent another year trying to figure out what I was going to do. Moved down to Miami, started training a little bit more. Got a call from Montreal, signed a contract with them. Didn't even make it over the border for them.
Mm.
Got cut by them again. And then from there, I had been recently talking to a friend that I went to high school with, who was the president of a team in Denmark. And then from there, I got signed to go play overseas in Europe. And then from there, I spent 8 years in Europe playing.
Oh.
Back and forth in between where I kind of, the 6 months of playing, 6 months of being back home. There was a 2-year period where I stayed out there full time. Got deported one time, so then I was at home for about 6 months.
Wow.
Went back to play in Germany in the new league. That was kind of the new NFL Europe. It's
Yeah.
called the European League of Football. I was in that with the Frankfurt Galaxy. Ended up breaking my ankle and having to get surgery. Moved to Sweden because at the time I was dating a girl that had got pregnant. And then I recovered and everything like that. Moved down to Hungary to play again. Got deported again, so I had to leave for another 6 months. And I just had a newborn daughter,
Yes.
so I only got to see her for the first week of her life. And then they came to the States about 6 months later. Spent 2 years back in the States working for a company D1.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And so
Yeah.
and then after that, I wanted to go back and play because I wanted to go back and be close to my daughter and kind of wanted to walk off on my own terms. Went
Yeah.
to Austria last year to play. I was there for about 4 months. Wasn't the same as what it used to be,
Yeah.
but it was great to be able to get close to my daughter and be an hour and a half flight away, and she got to see me play in 2 games, which was awesome. Because it was kind of something I kind of want to walk away from football and like her knowing what dad actually did.
Yeah.
And so then last year in June, I retired and came back to the States, and now I've just been head down working, and then started and that's where the podcast started. My
Nice.
friend and I, who I played with in Hungary, Jay, we started a podcast because we were trying to figure out what the next steps were for us after life. Because he's also a strength and conditioning coach in Hungary, and he runs his own company over there. I was doing my own thing, and we kind of when I went back overseas, we were like, hey man, like nobody's actually talking to the coaches. And then a lot of us coaches are also former athletes. So we're trying to figure out how everybody's journey is going. And then, then I met Tara through Brandon because Brandon was my old college roommate. We both played safety together. I actually was the one that hosted him on his recruiting visit from Butler
What?
junior college and got him to come to Charlotte.
Oh
And
my
then we ended up being roommates with like 7 other guys in the house. And the funny thing is, the way that Brandon got to the CFL is because the scout for the CFL that was living in Charlotte area, I told him that he needed to check out this guy.
Yeah.
And then he had like a one-on-one tryout with Brandon. And then from there, Brandon made it to the CFL.
Awesome.
And he's a way, way better athlete than I am. Way better player. I can say that wholeheartedly and honestly on camera. And I've told him himself, he is a better athlete than I ever was, a better football player than I ever was. And that's why he's had such a long career in the CFL. So I'm super, super proud of him.
Nice.
But yeah, so then Brandon told me about Tara. Then I had Tara on for an episode, and here we are today. And
Here we
Tara's
are.
been helping me also with seeing what the other next step is, maybe going into sliding sports. So, and I think that's the hard part about for me for retirement is that I've had nothing to really work towards.
Yeah.
So when I retired, I thought like I'd be okay. I thought I'd be good. Like I let go of football. Like I walked away on my own terms. Like I'm done with wanting to compete at that side of things. Like I just want to see what normal life is like. And excuse my language, but I fucking hate it. The
Yeah.
real world sucks. The
Right.
fact that people don't like to compete and show up every day and like give it their all and like want to like be better than the next person is
Right.
weird to me. So
Yep.
I'm like, I can't do this. And even though I work in the gym setting, like I'm with coaches all the time. I'm like, sometimes like I have athletes and stuff like they want to get better, but like there's also like the step out of like going to the gas station and the everyday person isn't like trying to, they're just okay.
Right.
They're okay. And I don't understand it. And then, and then Tara like told me a little bit more about the sliding sports. And I was like, man, it could be something else that I compete at. I don't know. We'll see if I get a chance to do it. But it's giving me more light to like actually start programming for myself and start working hard again. Because when I came home, I had the messed up right hand that I can't even straight out my fingers. And I had left knee that, I had to get stem cell treatment in. And then I got that stuff dealt with. And now I feel good. It's not a day that I ever feel like the best. Like, because I don't have the same resources like I did before to go to the training room or go get the sports massages and all this other stuff. So like there's the things that you got to do on your own and the vitamins you got to figure out and how to eat. And also when I'm going home, like I cook and everything like that. So there's like a lot of things that you got to do that you don't think about when you retire because I have a job. Like I actually have something that I need to do like the full hours. Like throughout the day, and then I need to train, and then I need to eat right, and like because when you're playing, like that's your job. That's all you do. Like when you show up to the facilities, like even in the NFL, CFL, like you show up to the facilities, like there's food there for you, right? The weight room's there for you. Like everything is there. Now when you got to travel out to do all these things, it becomes complex. And I think that's the other side of life that we just aren't ready for. Just to be blatantly honest, we don't know what to do.
And no one talks about it. And I think honestly, like going back to our first conversation, I think before anybody gets into this, I think there needs to be a setup for sports like psychology, where it's just like automatically before you get going, like even if you get signed, that's great. You're going to have some sessions with a sports psychologist just to kind of like lay out some of the groundwork of what it is going in. And then let's have it also on the back end. I think that needs to happen financially, and I think it has to happen mentally. Because no one tells you. You go in thinking, again, right? Glamour. And then it's not, what they always say, the grass isn't as green ever.
I think also for me, like, because right now we currently have a guy that's here training for a pro day, right? So he's just leaving Arkansas State. And it's like hard for me because I'm like, man, do I step in and like have that genuine conversation, but not seem like the guy that's like trying to like ruin your dreams down. Of like, what I mean? Like, I want to have like a real conversation with you. Like, it might not work out, bro. Like, you might get on a team for like days and mini camp and all that stuff, like for preseason, but you might get cut. Like, what are you planning on doing next? But like, it's also like, I know when I was that age, like, I ain't trying to hear what you got to say, bro. Like, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to run a 4.3. I'm going to do my thing at pro day. And don't you worry, like, I'm going to be on a team. But even
I'm going to be okay.
I mean, I had an amazing pro day, right? Like, and draft day comes around, like my agent's telling me I'm going to get drafted third, fourth round. I don't even get drafted. I don't even get a call right after the draft is done. right? I don't even get a call till a week later telling me, like my agent telling me, hey, you've got the option of either going Seattle, Arizona, or Jaguars for a rookie mini camp, not on contract, but as a tryout player. Like you're telling me that I fell all the way from being drafted to being an undrafted free agent to now I don't even have a contract. Like I don't
Right.
have anything to stand on. Like I'm just going out there to potentially, maybe, hopefully get on a team. And then you got to look at the roster. Right? Did they draft a safety? How many safeties they already got? What guys are on
Yep.
future contracts? How
Yep.
many guys are bringing in at my position or rookie minicamp? And it's like, all right, so there's like 60 guys, right, that I'm going in, and I'm like, okay, and these 60 guys aren't even on contract,
And
right?
do I know them? Like, do they know me? Because I hate to say it, we all pretend that there isn't like a little bit of some kind of nepotism factor into all this stuff, but it's like this guy went to that school, this, why? I mean, and I will talk about coaches. Why
Yeah.
coaches, I've never in any business, coaches can get hired and fired. Period. Like you did a terrible job over here, no problem. Let's just sweep that clean and move you over here because you're going to do better there. So just imagine if you're sweeping over people, you're also sweeping over players, which you can also look to see that that's the case too. So again, what's unfortunate is that guys are putting their confidence based on if they make it when there is so much that is stacked against them. Like you literally have to be that 1%er guy who is just phenomenal, right? Like you just have to be like smoke show, like just beyond. And it's like, but that's
All the
not,
time.
yeah. And that's not even really, that's not the truth of the matter, probably are good enough to be on these teams. But there's a whole, that's what also people don't talk about either. It's like, just because you did this over here at this school, or you did that, or you became this, I mean, look at all the freaking what do you call them? Heisman Trophy winners. How many Heisman Trophy winners are actually playing in the NFL? That is the
Well,
most prestigious award to win. And it's like, and even and there's a whole nother argument about that too.
Well,
Like,
I have a whole other like anger about this is because I mean, in my research, research that I was trying to pursue a doctorate on was sort of like measuring the physiological cost of the life under the sport piece, like the umbrella of a certain training methodology and living like this, because it's one thing, I mean, it's a false reality when you actually, it can be a false reality when you make a team and you've had a lot of time and effort and energy put into you to be good or good enough to sort of make a team. What people don't prepare you for and what tends to derail progress or continued success is that the physiological cost of living under this umbrella isn't factored into the training, and people burn out really, really quickly or don't get the help they need. And so I've witnessed so many athletes that would have, had they had the right kind of help and support and training plan and support around that training plan or whatever, gone a lot farther than they did because their training wasn't, or their training and their health around that training wasn't managed properly. That's my soapbox, because I'm frustrated for those folks that like get,
yeah,
tossed out of sport before their time because they weren't cared for properly, and people didn't understand how to manage or navigate that. And I've been able to figure out like a bit of a load calculation around what that looks like and how to factor that into the training. My
yeah,
research and work is around extending sport life and trying not to give people these false messages, because I've seen lots of people get turfed before their time, and then they're like super upset and resentful and angry, and because it's like they didn't have the experience that they wanted. So there's that issue. So it's people that are understanding of that and putting time, effort, energy, and resources into proper pathway development into the sport, through the sport, and out of the sport. And we've talked about this in one of our other episodes, Nicole, is what happens physiologically to somebody as they come out of sport and they've trained at that level, and then suddenly their body is in complete revolt. And then the psychological consequences of all that hormonal flux, like there's a huge side there that is also really mismanaged, so that you've got people that are like,
crazy,
go crazy afterwards because they don't know what to do with all of
right?
this anger and the hormonal
Yeah,
stuff. And so if that's not recognized for what it is physiologically, and people just say, well, Coop's a douche, like he's just like, he's just acting like an idiot. And I'm like, no, hormonally, this is what's happening to Coach Coop. Like, this is what's happening. And so I've been going around trying to say, don't judge this. And I've talked to medical practitioners who followed athletes post retirement, and like, you have no idea what happens to their bodies and their minds as a consequence. That's physiologically
yeah,
driven, not character driven. Like, it has nothing to do with their
yeah,
character. It's like a syndrome. It's like being diabetic. You
yeah.
wouldn't yell at a diabetic. for being in the state, you
Exactly.
wouldn't be like,
For
dang
going
you and
into
your,
a
your
shot.
darn sugars. Like, no, you'd be like, you are in a physiological state that needs to be recognized and managed so that people have the best opportunity to be healthy, well, and cognizant of what choices are available to them. So there's that that's not being managed. And so you've got a lot of people going out and just being like, cascading into a hormonal crap storm and ending up depressed or in those stages. So I'm trying to go at it from a scientific perspective to say, like, there's so much to navigate here that needs, there's a duty of care call that's
Right.
really important getting into within the sport and leading to retirement to keep people healthy, well, and safe and on a trajectory where they can even capitalize on what's next, let alone, they're like laying in bed with horrible issues. And that's for me
Yeah.
as a working in physiology on the physiological side of it is like I'm super upset about because I've watched so many people, fall apart, like literally and physically, like a leg almost falls off. Like they're so messed up when they're done that there's no opportunity for them to keep going. And my hope and platform is to try to find other opportunities, which is and manage that training load and what happens to people. But like there's all of that isn't navigated. So that's something that I really feel is that needs massive investment, people that understand
Big
that.
time.
And then
Big
what's
time.
next? Like, how do you be productive after? And I know that's a whole thing with you and where Henry went, like what retirement looked
Yeah.
like. And, how did he even figure that
Yeah.
out?
Well, I will say this. When he retired and he was almost 42, which is like, let's be clear, when I took the journey with him, we thought it was going to be that 2 to 4, 3 to 5, whatever, and for it to go for damn near, excuse my French, 2 decades. No one prepares you for that because you just don't think, but that was the case. But partly also to what you're talking about a little bit physiology, like he started to change how he trained, like he was doing different things, not just going to the weight room and like running. It was just like he's changing his diet, he's looking at it more, and that really wasn't necessarily like a staple in the program. But fast forward to him retiring, what's interesting is the way he retired, and I can say this, he could have played another year, but that's not what the organization management wanted to necessarily do in the way that made sense for him, especially after he had just won the Grey Cup at 41 plus and became the MVP of that game. And then they're going to treat him like trash a little bit. It was like, this is time to go. Because at this point you've done it, right? Like you've done all the things, you've got the awards. Now we're on the other side of the hill, right? Like we're not at the beginning where we're trying to make it. You've made it. There's really nothing else left for you to do, and you can literally go out on top. And that is a very difficult thing to decide to do when you could go and do a second one, right? Like, and guess what? We've seen it. Who did we just see try to do it? Let's just keep repeating, and then you end up going out sideways. And it's like, you know what? And what do they say? You're only as good as your last game. Well, luckily he did, but the negative of that was I still feel like I can play. So, and he was initially right after that, they approached him to coach. And I said, you're not going to be able to coach. You can't even go to a game without being pissed. It's like, we're at the game. I don't want to be with you. I don't want to be sitting next to you because he is so, angry bird that it was like, it's not an enjoyable. I'm thinking, finally, I get to watch a game with my husband who isn't possibly going to get murdered, on the field. And then here he is sitting next to me and he's Angry Bird. And I'm like,
He's about on the field already.
because he's looking at them like, what are you doing? And, and he's not wrong. He wasn't wrong in that moment. But I didn't know that because I was a little bit selfish because I was ready for it to be over too. Just like what Tara, talked a little bit about of all the stuff. I wanted to not have to be, I didn't even really care about wins and losses in the way that most people care about wins and losses. I care about wins so that the rest of the week I didn't have to, I knew that our name wasn't going to be in the paper about what he didn't do and why we lost. And that's going to be the news flash for the whole rest of the week. I got a free week and my kids got a free week. So no one's saying nothing to them at school, and no one's saying or stopping me at a stoplight. I can just live my life for that week. And that's the reality of it, you know? Like, are you really, you have to be someone who is even keeled because, yeah, I probably should have gotten into a whole bunch of scraps and scuffles and stuff, but is it really worth my time though? Like, you have to you really, just like Sarah was saying, it's like you have to become such a confident person within yourself to be like, understand the reason why all this is happening is because everybody thinks the grass is greener and they wish they could be in your shoes, but they really don't know what that is, you know? And then also, too, guess what? I had to learn these people are spending their hard earned dollars. They were never going to be they were never going to be him. So guess what they get to the right to do? When they pay for that ticket, they pay for their food at the concessions, that is their opportunity to come to be entertained by the team that they love. They paying however much for a jersey. They get to say and do whatever they want. That is their right. I don't have to like it. And I don't want to be sitting next to it when they're talking about my husband behind me and saying negative things, which is why I do believe that there should be a separation of family in the stands always. You should just, I don't care if you're on the lowest level of team ever, I don't care. Families should not have to sit in the stands because that's also the fans' experience. Our experience is like, this is a job, you know? So we see it differently and our experience is different than theirs. And I feel like we should have that experience differently. But like, yeah, after retirement, I said to him, absolutely not. You can't coach. You need to step away long enough to where literally you do put on 25, 30, 50 pounds. I mean, he didn't, but you put on some weight and you know for a fact you can't take that hit from that D lineman. You know for a fact that's like, yeah, that's not me anymore. Like, I'm not that guy under center. You have to be, until that moment happens, then you can go back and think about coaching. And so that's pretty much what happened. He went into media, he did broadcasting, which is what his background was, because he got an education. Because guess what? Everybody goes to school. So guys, also, when you're in college, go actually get that education. Don't just be looking for the scholarship and just skating through your college. Learn, it's like, it's not a waste. That's the win. And I feel like I say this to a lot of parents now because I'm kind of dealing with that a little bit down here, and parents don't really know. So, as Tara knows who I am, it's like if I see people who just don't have the education of it, I try to let them know, like, hey, the win isn't the NFL. The win is if your kid is talented enough to get a scholarship to some college, because now he's going to come away with an actual education. But you also have to covet that. Everybody's just like thinking it's, oh, well, that's just one step into the next space. And it's like, no, we're looking at everything so backwards, but that's what everybody's been taught. But that's what my husband did. He used his education, went into broadcasting, and then when he got an opportunity to coach, he was finally ready. And it was probably like 3 or 4 years. It was right at the tail end of COVID. He got an opportunity to coach with the Bears, and there we go. And then but then I will say it was a struggle because now we're in the NFL coaching where he had a whole lot of success in the CFL. And it's so funny how right now we see what's happening with the Canadian US relations. It's like people pretend like they don't know what Canada was when he came back. But really, I think it's a little bit deeper than that, where it's like, oh, he had all the success and all these other people didn't. And now he's going to come and take our job. And I was like, well, yes, but whatever. But it's like, we are actually friends. Canada and US are actually friends. We just, I'm not going to get into the politics of it, but everybody has to stop believing the hype. Like at the end of the day, just stop. Like, it's enough. You know what I mean? It's like, because their favorite coach coached in Canada or played in Canada, like freaking, it was like Marv Levy was inducted into Hall of Fame in Canada the same time Henry was. And then they pretend like they don't know who my husband is. And I'm like, or they disrespect the fact that, oh, well, that's the Canadian League. I'm like, but you love Mark Levy. So you can't have it both ways, like yeah. Anyway, that's a whole nother conversation too. But he had to learn that hard lesson coming back as an American to the States where he was kind of slighted, where it's just like, and it's just like, but a lot of these people who probably didn't really play, they would have taken the chance to play in Canada if they had the opportunity. You know what I mean? So it's just like, don't knock it until you try it. Don't knock it if you don't know it, And like, again, I think that just goes back to just overall ignorance of just people, period, and like not being educated on things. It's like if you don't know, and guess what? Like, I think part of it too is just they don't know down here, right? Like they're finally starting to show Canadian games like more regularly, but
Yeah, I didn't know
but
about
like
Canada when I was.
but here's the thing, we took the chance because I mean the fact that I keep saying we took the chance, like we're like we have no idea where we're going, we're like, but and then you go and it's just like they're just like us, like we're all doing the same stuff, it's just
They're actually pretty athletic up there.
Yeah,
hello. I
thank you.
mean, who said it? Wasn't it Dion? Was it
Yeah,
Dion? He
Dion and
said it.
Ocho said it.
Ocho, that's what it was. Because I can't tell you during my husband's tenure how many guys went up there and they didn't make it. And it's like, don't
Me,
get
I
it
was one of
twisted.
them. When I
Don't.
went to rookie mini camp, I was like, man, this is about to be easy. I just came from an NFL mini camp, like it's Canadian League. They ain't gonna be nothing. They got them running starts and they talk about do the catch technique and linebacker. Oh no, coach, what? Hey, hold on, time out. I didn't even know the game was played like this.
Yeah,
Why are they moving? What's going
this
on?
whole thing is about to get
Yeah,
sideways.
bigger field, bigger end zone, all just running gun. Coach, I'm tired, boss.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah,
And you know
no.
what's so funny? When we came back, I was like, ugh, the NFL is so boring. It's just like they don't score, they don't do nothing. It's just like, and they're cheating. I was like, they get four downs. Like, are you serious? And it's so funny because when I went, I was like, what? You only get a chance. It's like two and out. I was just like, this is crazy. And then the extra point.
Football, like what's going on?
Oh my God, I lost my mind. Now it's like, it is just, and this is where I just got, I mean, that is like a message to the world. Just learn something from somebody else one time and it will change your life.
Mhm.
Like I'm better for it. I call myself a Canadian American. I literally lived half my life in both places. And I'm like, and when I hear people talk about this, that, and the other, I was like, well, nobody's got it 100%. That's it. Because you can't. I mean, it's just like a wedding. No one's going to ever have it 100% right. And that's okay, but we're doing our best. We try it. Well, some of us, right? Other than others right now. But
Well, we have a really different sports
yeah.
system and a sport journey in Canada. So we've always felt like, wanting to be legitimized because we didn't have the money and the media put behind it. Like our country didn't prioritize that. Our universities didn't prioritize that, the same way. So, we've got great athletes up here that don't get the money or the funding, like the opportunities. And so it's always been sort of a feeling of needing to be legitimized by the US. And so
Yeah.
I've gone down to the US to do some work and presenting at conferences and things like that. And yeah, there's been that little bit about what are you going to like there seemed to be or a preconceived notion that what are you going to teach us, like we've got this big sports engine and you don't, but it's like we have to work that much harder to get recognized. So that's a whole other thing. I don't see the lines. I mean, I grew up with a dad who was a dual citizen and love and want to work and do more work in the States. So that's not really an issue for me, but in terms of just another thing on the smorgasbord of things to have stress about. I know that was a big issue, and that feeling like I've got to be legitimate, and I don't want to be here in this league, and I want to be here, or NFL guys coming in and saying, there was a dynamic there that needed to be navigated. Again, another stressor to manage.
Yeah.
let alone the fact that you got to show up there in shape, warmed up, try not to pull that hammy again, like all the things you got to worry about just around performing. That's so becomes, it's supposed to be the job, but that's so
Daunting.
secondary to all this other stuff and the social and the emotional and the political. And now we've got more political stuff than ever before with all of it. So there's I guess I could say, like, in summary, from my perspective, I'm looking back on all of it and what I try to pass on, because I'm working actively with athletes trying to make it, or who have and are trying to stay there at the top, is just, sport is just another vehicle to learn how to live life and be freaking tough. Like, I mean, honestly, like, the amount of thick skinnedness you have to be able to withstand this and not perform well once, but year over year, is huge.
Yeah.
And let alone manage a family and keep your family together, which is incredibly difficult. And the pressure of that is huge. And like we talked about earlier in the conversation about sitting in the stands, like, as families, and having a young child say, why are they yelling at dad? Like, you had it way harder than obviously we did. We just
Yeah.
always heard, oh, McNeil's holding again, holding number 50, and I'd be like, and then you'd hear in the background, and I'm like, yeah, I just, like, I'd hear them, oh, not again, McNeil. Like, why are you like, and so that would bother me. And then my son being like, what's wrong with dad? Like, what's dad doing? I'm like, I don't know, just plug your ears and we'll talk about it in the car. But sometimes the pressure got to that. I remember before your time, or in between your, because you came back, one of the players' wives did not tolerate it, and it became between, like, your husband needs to throw more to my boyfriend, and if he threw to my boyfriend, we wouldn't have a problem. And then the girls started going at it, and it literally was, one of them just lost her bananas and climbed over the stand, cleared the crowd, and it was a full hair
Yeah, like
pulling
you
punching fight.
told me about that.
Yeah, so it's one thing that the fans are on the players and their families about not doing well. Then all of a sudden, the players' wives turned on each other, or girlfriends, and then there's a full-on, like, hair pulling cat fight in the stands. And I'm like, okay, we've just gone too far. This is too much. Like,
Yeah. It's out of
it's funny
control.
looking, but it's
But
a
you know
little bit
what?
comical looking back on it. But living it is awful. And you're trying to explain to your child, like, hey, this is dad's job, and yeah, these
Yeah.
people are, yeah, they're pulling each other's hair.
You're like,
I
but
have to laugh because it's very, but then raising a child in that, to sort of say, like, what should your expectations be for the world? How you treat people? How much value should you put on your sports career? Oh, sports teaches you lots of great things. Like, what are the things you can learn? It's really, really difficult. So
yeah.
having a strong network of people outside of the sport, having a career and identity and an education to keep you rooted. Thank goodness, like, my ex, I had a dad who put the fear of God in him to get another job, like, because you're not going to, you have to support our family. He did work, and he did go on. He ended up getting more education, and now he's got, a big job as a president of
A
a
great job.
team. But that took a
Yeah.
lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of whatever to kind of manage that and support, to try to play and worry about that at the same time. Like, that's why I get so angry about people not legitimizing the sport journey, because who can do that? For people that sort of
Yeah.
say
They
it's
couldn't.
fluffy and you're just going to get to go to work every day and play. Well, you go have to work every
Right.
day and have to do all this and manage the nonsense that goes around with it, and
Oh,
try to manage your money. Like, it is just, I would say it's incredibly challenging, and
yeah.
so much more support is needed for the whole clan of people.
Yeah. You
There,
have
there's a
a like do you have a, and not to cut you off, do you have a thought about, because I definitely felt that way, even though I know my husband was like the highest paid player, um, it doesn't fall short on me because, like, the one beautiful thing I think about my husband is, like, he knew that he needed all the guys around him too. Like, he, just because he was highest paid, and he always used to say, he's like, yeah, but if you go into the parking lot, you wouldn't be able to pick out my car. No, I'm not driving the most expensive vehicle, which again is another conversation to be had. But he knew the value of his team. Like, I can only be as great as the people around me, which is, to me, what a true leader is, and what a true leader does is that you raise everybody up around you. But I, for myself, early on was aghast at how little some guys were making and expected to, or the fact that some would actually have another full-time job. And, like, sometimes I think in the media they would say, oh, well, they kind of, like, double down on it, making it seem like that was, like, this great thing. And I'm like, to be a pro athlete, I don't care. You know what I'm like? That's not a thing. Like I don't personally want to go to my bank and see the guy behind the teller whose jersey I'm buying. I find that to be like makes no sense. And I feel like that's a little bit of what the mentality was. I feel like they've changed it a bit because I know that they raised the minimum, but like where do we go? Because let's be real, the CFL's been around way longer than the NFL, and there's no reason for it not to be considered in a real true way. And I mean, I would love to have real conversations with people up high wherever and I don't know, again, I feel like that's where I would start just because that's where I lived in that and navigated that for a long time. But I do think, like you said, it's all over. It's, living in Calgary, seeing all the Olympians, same thing. It's like they build this beautiful facility that they charge membership to, that these, like, I don't know if they must have changed it, but like early on it was like they can't even afford to train or pay for the training that they need to stay being an Olympian. What are we talking about? Like that makes no sense to me.
Yeah, that's a huge one around my whole thing at Bob's Canada Skeleton. Like in addition to going to grad school and having a full-time job, I was volunteer. We had to volunteer run, myself and another fellow, the organization for a period of time because it wasn't money to pay people to be on there except for the coaches. And then the athletes are like training like crazy, and to be an athlete at that caliber, they're all right now in world championships in Lake Placid. Like so much work goes into being as strong and fit as they can be, and they are absolutely like they're barely making it. It broke my heart. That's why I took on the gig. It's like we've got to do something. And they are literally not making it, and so and that's why, like, it's such a huge paradox, and they're expected to try to go out and work and raise money. And so there's a real disconnect between like they're trying to manage hey, you're glorified over here, but do you know that I slept in my car last night? Like it's almost, and it has become in some cases that bad. So that is very psychologically damaging. And that's a whole other thing that I'm still trying to process myself, what I went through, being a part of that, the organization, and talking and working with those athletes. Like broke me to pieces, broke my heart. And because they just weren't barely making it. And so when you have a pro league there's players that are, getting all this attention from being great, but yeah, you're right. And then you see them working at 7-Eleven, or like 7-Eleven is a convenience store in Canada, then it's like that.
Yeah.
And then people if they're mean to them on the field, imagine how they feel, if I've got to get a job in landscape or do some stuff or shovel walks to keep playing. Like it's just, it
Wow.
messes with your head. It completely messes with your head. And so, and then to just, the sad part is to cast them out. Hence the podcast. That's why I jumped in. I was so impressed with Coop just pulling together the people, first of all, in his first podcast to talk about how do you get there, and talking to all the different performance practitioners. That's how we connected. But then just this whole, like, does anybody really understand the path afterwards and what you went through and how broken it leaves a lot of people and what needs to happen to change that? I'm like, I have to help, kind of talk about this. And that's why kind of connecting with you, because I know you have so much more to say on it. But you two, I have to run to my other job. I've got to go. I've got to sign off on here myself.
We'll keep it for the next episode.
Yeah, we got many episodes to come for sure.
Yeah. But just, talking about it, I think is the first step. And so grateful, Coop, to just like for you to just have the courage to put this out there and be real about it and give people a platform to talk, because hopefully that means that something, really positive will come of this, and there'll be a call to action to help more people, or at least help people realize they're not alone and feel like less like lunatics in their journey. That would be a win unto itself. So
yeah.
I know for sure. I don't have anything figured out, but I mean, if it can help the next person along and help save the next person not taking their lives, and at least I know I'm headed in the right direction in life. So
1000%.
I appreciate you ladies jumping on and sharing. But we'll save the rest for episode number 2. I know everybody's got to get to their regular everyday jobs.
Yeah,
we'll be out of here. Y'all have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Good
guys.
seeing you guys.
Thanks. Yeah. Bye, Nicole. See you. Bye.
Bye.